And so from my ankle all the way up to my hip bone was completely numb. I couldn't feel a thing for about 2.5 minutes. It will be natural to be a little bit fearless about that, right? To go after it, to be intense with the things that you have a purpose for. Welcome to Ballplayer's Evolution, episode 3 here. And this one's about being fearless, guys. Be fearless. It will change the way you do everything else in your life, because the way that you approach your life has to do with everything. And are you going to approach life, are you going to approach your games with the mindset of always being afraid about what the outcome's going to be? And the longer you live, the more you'll figure out this, and I can promise you from experience, the things that happen to you are less about the result outcome and more about the process of the actions that you took. What did you do in the present? What are the things you controlled in the present moment that led to the result? We get it backwards. We think about the result first. We think about the result before it happens. And then we get distracted, we lose focus, and we become fearful of what might happen instead of being fearless. So be fearless. It will change the way you do everything else in your life. Believe it or not, it's fun to be fearless. It's hard at first, it's uncomfortable, but when you experience this enough times, you'll start to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations. And I bet you've heard that before. Be comfortable in uncomfortable situations. What does that mean, and how do we do that? Right? Well, it starts with being fearless. You've got to be able to adapt this mindset. So again, when you experience this enough times, you'll start to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations. And when you start to get comfortable in these uncomfortable situations, look out, because you are coming. I can promise you that you are coming. It is time, it is your time, and no one can stop you. Dare the opposition to stop you. That's the mindset, guys. There's no other place other than sports where you can utilize this to your advantage. All right, so ball players, some examples. As a batter, you're up to bat. Stare that pitcher in the eye before they make that pitch. Stare at them with some intensity before they pitch the ball to you, and let them know it's go time. Let them know that you're the aggressor in the situation. In every situation between a batter and a pitcher, one of the people are going to be the aggressor and one won't. All right, and so which one do you want to be? That has nothing to do with mechanics, what kind of swing you have. If you're a righty or lefty batter, has nothing to do with any of that. Has nothing to do with talent. Has to do with a mindset and an ability and a willingness to be fearless in the box, to be fearless on the mound. And that's who coaches want on the mound with the game on the line. They don't always need the best pitcher. They need somebody who's fearless, somebody who's willing to accept the challenge and wants to be in the situations with the game on the line and wants to take control of the game. And the same thing with the hitters, right? They want somebody who's fearless with the bat in the hand. And so think about this. Go harder than you've ever gone before. Whether it's running to first base, going after a ball in the field, swinging the bat, pitching the ball. Watch an MLB game. Watch how an MLB pitcher, when they get in the zone, right? If they're throwing strikeout after strikeout, watch their body language, right? They're getting more and more amped up, locked in, and in tune with the game after each one. They're setting the tone for what's about to happen in the future of that game as well. Some are more intense than others, and so I'm not asking anybody to yell on the mound, but you're going to see that. You're going to see a guy in the major leagues who's striking out 2-3 batters in a row and then is screaming on the top of their lungs. And again, I'm not telling anyone to do that, but do you see the body language that they're approaching the game with and playing with? Do you see the amount of intensity? If you listen to the last episode, we talked about, are you going through the motions? Or do you have motivation in your motions, right? Motions versus motives. So in this example with the pitcher, to me, it's the lion roaring in the jungle, letting everybody know he's the king of the jungle, right? Fearlessness, not a care in the world. It's absolutely in the present moment. There's no thought about what's happened in the past or the future when you're in that mindset. So what kind of body language do you play the game with right now? Think about it. What kind of body language do you play the game with right now? Do you play it with passion and some intensity? Or do you play it with this mindset of just kind of going through the motions and hoping that you're not the guy that gets called on, hoping you're not the guy that has to go up to bat with the game on the line, hoping you're not the girl who makes the error that maybe they think costs them the game, when in reality there's going to be about 4 or 5 errors throughout that whole game on both sides. But for some reason we think that because we made the last one, that the order of the errors that were made makes a difference. When in reality, there's a lot of things that make up the final score of the game. So I'm going to ask you to do this. Intensify your passions. Intensify your passions because that's natural to do. Think about it. It won't be natural to intensify something you're not passionate about. But if you are, why aren't you? Right? Why aren't you passionate about this? Why aren't you showing that? If you're really staying true to who you are as a person, you've got to be passionate about your passions. You've got to be intense about your passions. Show it. Right? Let it out. Let it out of you. And so, for example, this might sound funny. I'm trying to show to you right now that I'm passionate about this. I don't care if what I'm saying is good. I'm passionate about it. I have a feeling deep inside my gut that there's these things that I know to be true, and so I want to share them. That's it. I don't care what anyone thinks about it. I don't care if you think it's true or not true, just because I know it to be true from what I've lived throughout my life and what I've lived as a ball player. And so I do believe most of you can agree with me on that. But it's really important stuff. The stuff we're talking about, it is really important, so much to the fact that it's life-changing if you take it serious enough. If you're fearless enough to commit to this. Man, be fearless. When that switch is turned on, it's hard to go back. All right? When that switch is turned on of being fearless, it is hard to go back. And truthfully, don't ever go back when you finally make the switch to being fearless. Don't ever do that. I mean, it's something when you experience it, I think you'll start to realize and understand that there's no reason to live life any other way, in my opinion. And so think about this. Wouldn't it be great to play the game never worrying? Never being afraid to make a mistake, never being afraid to miss the ball or make an error or to throw a strike as a pitcher or to be hit by the pitch as a young hitter. That's a good one there. That's a really common one. Right? So young players, you're afraid of the ball a little bit sometimes. And that is totally normal. I absolutely was afraid of the ball as a young player, getting into kids' pitch first couple of years. Who wasn't? Right? If you weren't your first couple at bats, I think you're lying about it a little bit, if I could be honest. And so, first off, it's not a big deal. But second off, we got to adjust. Right? We've got to be able to be a little bit more fearless. We can't be afraid of the ball our whole career. We're never going to be able to play the game anymore. Right? Because the last time I checked, every time that the ball's pitched, there's a chance to get hit by it. Right? Baseball is not like football or basketball where it's just like a running clock. The game can't go on unless pitches are made. And that's what creates a play, is a pitch. And so let's get to the root of that. If we're afraid of the initial pitch, how are we going to do anything positive in this game? And so let's think about this again. The amount of hits you will start to get as a hitter will triple as soon as you start being a little bit more fearless and you're not afraid to get hit. One of the first things that comes to mind is a player, baseball or softball, it's a hitter stepping out of the box and how common of an issue that really is. And so I'm just going to be upfront with you. If you're stepping out of the box, the root of that problem is you're afraid of the ball. Okay, you're afraid of the ball. It is very rarely a mechanical thing, right? Or a habit of just stepping back. At least the root of that problem was not created from that. The root of that problem of stepping out absolutely has to do with being a little bit afraid of the ball. Sometimes a lot of it, but at least to some degree, you're afraid of being hit by the pitch. And so you need to overcome that. Here's the reality, guys. When you get hit by the pitch, right, you got a helmet on, and if you're doing it the right way and a ball's pitched at you to where you think you're going to get hit, you need to turn away from the ball, not towards it. But if you do that, you're going to get hit in the helmet, which doesn't hurt, or hit in the back or the back of the leg, which stings for about 10 to 15 seconds if you get hit there, and then you're fine. More times than not, that pain is going away before you even get to first base. And so you've got to be able to be tough enough to withstand 10 to 15 seconds of a sting. And I promise it won't sting nearly as much as you think. And if it does hurt, get hit a couple more times so you get used to it, and then you'll start to be able to adjust. It's just as simple as that. You will overcome that. Everyone will get hit with a pitch. And if you play the game long enough, everyone's going to graduate to a point where they're no longer afraid of the sting anymore. And some are worse than others, no doubt. I got hit in the kneecap right on the bone by a 97-mile-an-hour fastball from a sidearm Dominican pitcher. And he had no idea where that thing was going. And I lifted my foot, and the second my front foot hit the ground, I didn't have a second to get out of the way, and I got smacked right in the kneecap. And it sounded like the ball hit the side of a wood barn. It was so loud it echoed in the whole stadium. I could hear in the background the oohs and ahs the second that the ball hit my knee, because you could hear it of how loud it was. And so from my ankle all the way up to my hip bone was completely numb. I couldn't feel a thing for about 2.5 minutes. And so that was one of the few times I was truly scared after the fact of getting hit by the pitch, just because of that, what had happened to my leg. And what actually did happen, I got up, I walked it off, I started jogging, the numbness went away, and I stayed in the game, and I was on first base. Right? And so if I can withstand that, I think you're going to be okay getting hit by a 40-mile-an-hour pitch in the back where you got a lot of meat there. I'm just being blunt, just being raw about that. That's the reality of it. And so sometimes we don't hear these things from our coaches. Sometimes we don't hear these things from others about getting hit by a pitch. But if you really just cut out all the crap and think about the reality of being hit by a pitch and how it's not a big deal, not as big of a deal as we think, and how we need to overcome that, right? I just think that's important to address. And so think about that. If you're a young player and you're stepping out of the box, are you really stepping out, or are you afraid of the ball? And so be fearless. Next one, stop playing the game walking on eggshells. Newsflash, those eggs are going to crack anyways. Stop playing the game so afraid to make a mistake, because here's the thing, the mistakes are guaranteed to happen anyway. They're guaranteed to happen anyway. Because if the best hitters are still only hitting roughly 300, right, that means they're failing 2 out of 3 times. That's factual. That's not just like my opinion. That is a fact. Go look up the stats, the batting averages of the best hitters. Go look up the Major League hitters' stats right now, right? The best hitters are hitting in the 300s. They're failing 2 out of 3 times. So if you already know that's inevitable, it's guaranteed to happen, stop fearing it beforehand. Stop thinking about it beforehand. It shouldn't even be a thought in your head at all, right? You're going to make mistakes. Errors are going to happen. No hitter has ever batted 1,000. If they say they did, they're either lying or they're in the wrong league. So that's my final thought, guys, for this one. Be fearless and be intense with the things you're passionate about. Because if you really ask yourself that question, if you really think to yourself, what am I put on planet Earth to do? Or what are these things that I feel called to do? What are these things that I know I'm passionate about and that I really love to do? It will be natural to be a little bit fearless about that, right? To go after it, to be intense with the things that you have a purpose for. And so I'll leave you with that for this one. If you like this stuff, please like it, subscribe, share it, and stay tuned for the next one.